Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. I wanted to point out here that the fighting controls for this game still use the keyboard controls of that existed in the Last Crusade, and we're pretty much going to have to use that um, in the heavy fighting mode with the keyboard, which is weird because you can fight with the mouse, but you're not likely to really succeed with it. There's also an I button to display IQ points. I wouldn't particularly recommend caring too much about the IQ points in this game. Let's see what it happens if I hit I right now. Yeah, right now. Currently I have 20 out of 26. So theoretically I've already missed some IQ points. And we are on no path at all. You'd pretty much need a walkthrough to get all the IQ points, and it doesn't matter. It is a old-fashioned way of stretching out the gameplay elements of point-and-click adventures that just didn't really even work that well in its original days, because I remember playing this game brand new, pretty much, and not caring one bit if I got all the IQ points. Now the Sierra games put it more up in your face, so like the King's Quest games and such, where they highlight the number of points you could collected, so you'd be more aware of it. But even in the King's Quest games, you don't really have any reason to want to try and max out the game. I would say the branching paths, as crazy as it is implemented, and there's definitely a reason why you never really will see another game with 3 completely different middle acts in a game. Sometimes you'll see different endings in the last like 10 or 20 minutes of a game, but different middle sections? No, never. It's too ambitious and too easy for players to potentially miss 2/3 of your game. Alright, so we're in Iceland. I'm not sure if we actually end up seeing the person who's supposed to be here. In fact, I think we spent kind of a small amount of time here anyways. There's not really a lot to talk or look at. You can go to the old dig site, or you can go to the encampment. Let's walk to the encampment. We can talk to Sophia, and we will talk to her at some point.
It looks like someone's still living here.
But take note there that not every single action is going to result in Sophia responding.
Sophia.
You're gonna have to actually ask her something. So you can have some conversations. I doubt the conversations are really going to give you any information. I do think this third option here is probably a hint option, so she's going to be a walking backup for hints, which is fine. Like, it's a decent idea, frankly. There's a lot of times in video games where you're left all alone and just don't have a clue what you're doing or what you're supposed to do next, so it wouldn't hurt to have more sidekicks in games, particularly if they're just going to be silent and stand behind you for most of the game.
Remember this place?
The Jastro expedition. How could I forget?
So,
Cold enough for you?
Even colder than my feelings towards you, Jones.
you can get a couple of lines of dialogue,
Let's look around.
and then the bottom line,
Okay.
of course, is just going to be a cancel. So we could try to use the
The
truck.
truck we arrived in.
But yeah, the very basic things here. There's no big secret. This is just a scene that has been beautifully animated and is going to be underused slightly. I think we walk in here, find some hint towards the next location, and we move to the next area. Or we may actually have to travel around a little bit. Now that I see this sequence, and we're inside a iced over cave, and there's an ice obscured object. So let's go look at the ice obscured object.
It's an eel figurine
So we do
wrapped in
actually
ice.
talk to him and deal with him. Now, what this kind of tutorializes, if the previous section was a tutorial on just picking one of 3 paths to get inside and then doing one linear path to stop Sophia's presentation, this, I think, is going to introduce the few times in the game in which you're going to have Sophia talk to him, because I think he doesn't want to talk to you.
Dr. Heimdall.
Dr. Indiana Jones, I believe, and Madam Sophia Hapgood. This is my big fight now. Go away.
Notice that the chiseling sound effect played for a while after he stopped chiseling. So yeah, he's not willing to be friendly.
Doctor, what do you expect to find here?
The secret of Hyperborea. That's what the Greeks called Iceland, you know. You've read how they sailed north to a fog-shrouded land, and how they never set foot upon it. Ha! After traveling thousands of miles, mere fog wouldn't turn them back. Some idiots claim they've ever came by ghosts. Puppycock, you know what actually stopped
I
them
think I want to turn down the music. That's weird though, because normally on Scum VM games I don't feel a need to adjust the volume any. Like, I try to leave all of this exactly the same, but the music is fairly loud. But I think it kind of is just this guy too. So he's just talking
I
about
don't know, but maybe Sophia has an idea.
the Greeks and his
Forget
field
it.
of
I'll
interest.
just tell you. They were stopped by a force field put here by beings not of this earth.
Notice how the subtitles are not playing in line with what's being said.
That's fascinating, Doctor.
So it's kind of silly to say for a second that you shouldn't believe in a force field when at this point we've seen a necklace and a ghost in this game. In The Last Crusade, we saw the Cup of Christ being a magical thing, which in The Last Crusade there were particular seals you couldn't take the Cup of Christ past. You saw what happened in Temple of Doom, and you saw what happened in Ark of the Covenant. Like, it would totally be believable in this universe, canonically, assuming that each of the Indiana Jones movies happen in the same universe, which at least Kingdom of the Crystal Skull established that, where it would have probably been better in the 4th movie to actually establish that Indiana Jones actually did not experience any of the previous experiences. But yeah, it's not crazy to particularly believe them, particularly since these are like established archaeologists. They're not just cranks. And almost certainly we are going to find out that Iceland may have been a offshoot of the descendants of the Atlanteans. So
But why did these beings show up here?
you can pick whatever you want.
I am convinced that these travelers came to Earth to form colonies like Atlantis, using Hyperborea as a spaceport. Up north here, we're close to the ether. It's a perfect landing site.
So he thinks that he thinks that they're aliens.
So what's the link between Hyperborea and Atlantis?
And see, you would have programmed this better,
Aye, the Yastro expedition. They went
obviously,
about
to...
it. Recently, I saw pieces from it. Pieces that are clearly Atlantean.
I see.
Like, you would have had the music...
Somebody must have been selling them.
You'd have the music stop
Go
while
ahead,
he's talking
blame
to
it
her,
all
and
on me.
she just does a hair flip. Okay.
So you completely discount the supernatural?
So the bottom option
Absolutely. If it's
is...
supernatural you want, there are two people you might want to visit.
Hmm.
Charles Sternhardt in Tikal, a shady fellow. But very clever. And Philip Costa in the Atos Island. As a researcher, he's a farce, but he's a smart trader.
Yeah, this music is just
Meanwhile,
not working.
I got an Atlantean artifact right in front of me.
Alright, well, let's adjust this. We can bring music back later. Let's bring it down to 92, lose 100 out of 255, and see what that sounds like.
What is this thing you're working on?
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Bronze eel here. It's probably a homing beacon for wayward spaceships. Soon I'll have it out of the ice.
Now, this guy probably is a crank, but and crazy, but he's not going to be completely wrong either.
Have you ever heard of Plato's
And he
Lost
just told you to
Dialogue?
go talk to 2 new people, so you now potentially have 2 new locations to search.
Dr. Sternhardt and Costa.
So each one of these are repeated because you know that this is actually a important bit of information that pushes you forward in the story.
Good luck, fellow believer.
So if I was to check, we are now at 23 out of a total of 29 points. Let's see if we could talk to Sophia and see if we can convince her. Notice how
What's
they
on your
walk
mind?
away from someone else.
I think the good doctor's got frostbite of the brain.
I'll say, spaceman my eye.
So yeah. You see the man, you talk to the man, then you leave. Very, very basic. And yeah, this isn't even the section I was thinking about. So unless we can use the encampment and see if there's something we can steal
I don't
from
think
it.
that'll work.
I think we are just going to leave. And there's no like object highlighting, but then there also really isn't a lot of pixel hunting in this game, unlike so many other point and click adventure games. So I think we just leave.
Let's head for the airport.
You use the truck, and now you can go either back to New York, which will take you to the college, or to the Azores, or to Tikal. Let's go just to the Azores. I think you pretty much end up having to have to go in kind of circles anyways. These are very nice scenes, but they're very, very underused. Which, it would have made a lot more sense for these scenes to potentially have been reused for a secondary game. A B-side or an alternate version of this game being sold a year later would kind of make as much sense as having 3 branching middle paths. That being said, it took many, many decades before people would have been willing to potentially purchase the same game with slight variations. More likely, they would have been better off if they had just consistently, Lucasfilms and LucasArts had consistently just made a new Indiana Jones game every year. Once again, this is nothing. Like, you can't even really walk too much in this direction to get the screen to pan to look at these houses. Like, that's as far as about as much as you can walk. So we're gonna open the door and then talk to the man, and I believe this is the point where
Mr. Costa?
he doesn't want to talk to you.
Down, I'm coming.
Be careful, Indy. Humor him.
Clearly, a lot of this was experimenting with having different voice actors and with the talking ability, which this is pretty much the game that established the idea of talkies. So that is the groundbreaking technology here, something that is almost in at least half of all video games these days, is you would have voice acting. The other half of video games, it wouldn't make much sense to have voice acting. I would say, though, that there is a massive amount of visual novels, certainly on Steam, that could do with having voice acting, but they are so niche that you probably couldn't pay the voice actors and still make profit on selling a visual novel. Same is probably true for point-and-click adventure games these days. It probably is a lot more difficult to make a profit on those games, particularly if you're paying voice actors. And that might be the problem that you run into, specifically if you were to try to hire Harrison Ford to voice act in Indiana Jones games, is that he's not probably going to want to get paid scale, which is, I think about $650 a day to do at least a week's worth of voice acting. He probably would want to get paid a lot more. Let's go ahead and try this one. But I don't think any of these matter.
A bathroom in there I can use?
Yes and no. Now go away.
So he just shuts the door on you.
Nice going, Indy. I could have done better.
So notice how she says
Yeah, sure.
she could have done better. Like, this is still very much tutorialization. You pretty much are getting tutorialized for the entire first act.
I hear you know something about Plato's lost dialogue.
Maybe so, maybe no. Who are you?
Oh, we got to a second choice. It's not who I am, it's what I'm after. I'm a fellow believer. Me, I'm kind of lost. I'm Indiana Jones. Let's go with I'm Indiana Jones.
I'm Indiana Jones.
I'm Costa, and I'm tired of talking to you.
So you get two ways.
Indiana? What kind of stupid name is that?
And then he makes fun of
Don't
the
start with me.
fake name that Indiana Jones took. Because his real name is Henry Jones Jr.
Mr. Costa?
You again? What do you want?
I hear you know
Now you
something
can't
about
even
Atlantis.
choose that first option a second time.
Wouldn't tell you if I did.
Then don't be a jerk.
Come on, I'm a fellow believer.
Is that right? Do you know where Atlantis is?
I asked you first. Actually, I'm trying to figure out.
Actually, I'm trying to find out.
Come closer, boy, and I'll tell you. You're standing on it.
The Azores?
The Azores?
No one believes me. That hurts.
So he thinks
Don't say
Atlantis is
anything.
here. So we're going to run through this whole collection of crazy people that all have different theories around Atlantis. And Atlantis kind of is like the perfect area or lost civilization to build that cast of characters. Whereas if you had tried to have, say, several crazy people that believed that the Ark of the Covenant did different things, that wouldn't have probably played too well. Frankly, if some people believe like the Ark of the Covenant, say, granted eternal life, or that it was an alien artifact, or that it was an alien spaceship, or that it was actually an ancient mechanism, none of that really plays well to the standard Judeo-Christian thinking of what the Ark of the Covenant is. And it very easily could come off as sacrilegious. So it just leaves you at that, and just to show you can't do anything more.
Mr. Costa?
Leave me alone.
He won't talk to you.
So much for that.
So you've got to talk to Sophia.
Excuse me.
And
Yes?
he says excuse me sometimes, and that feels weird. Certainly it felt weird even when I first played it as a way to start a conversation with someone, but it is particularly weird nowadays because it feels like he's asking for someone's forgiveness.
How'd we get mixed up with this screwball?
The screwball in Iceland, remember?
Let's see. We'll go and do we get penalized if we take a hint? I don't think we do.
What do we do now?
We could talk to Costa again, or move on.
So it tells you your two options.
Sophia?
Yes?
Here, you talk to the man.
My pleasure.
So now you're switched over. And so now you are playing as Sophia with
My
her
necklace.
interface, which means now this voice actor is going to get some more work. Let's see. We could talk to Indy again, but I believe if we talk to Indy, it would
Indy?
just
Yes?
probably be to toggle back over. Actually, she can convince him to follow you.
Forget it.
Fine. It's forgotten.
Knows that some of these lines of dialogue are really more hostile than they should be for the specific circumstances.
Mr. Costa!
This better be important.
He's a touchy old bird.
Watch and learn, Dr. Jones.
Well, hello, beautiful.
And knows how he walks all the way out.
I hope my friend didn't pester you too much.
He's a friend of yours? Well, no, he didn't pester me that much.
Some of the ways things are capitalized, I definitely imagine them to sound differently than the way they sound. I don't think I ever played this game without the talkie version, or if I did, I don't think I played it until many, many years later with a silent version. Let's see.
Actually, he's named after the family dog.
Sophia?
See?
I see.
So now we get answers to our questions.
What can you tell us about Plato's Lost Dialogue?
What do you want to know?
Let's see. And so you're going to go through all of this. So normally I would go from the top, but let's just go through the bottom.
Can you get it for me?
Nope.
Do you know what's in it?
Nope.
Have you read it?
Not exactly.
The second
Have it?
answer is not exactly, then it immediately goes into the final answer, and then you get into this new menu of do you know where I
Do you
can
know
find
where
it?
we could find it?
Well, now, that depends. I might trade the information for a rare Atlantean artifact, such as a certain necklace I've heard about.
I'll
Oh.
never trade away my necklace.
They established very
Well
quickly
then,
she
if that's
won't
how you
trade that
feel,
away,
surprise me.
which is important because the throughout the rest of the game she doesn't get rid of it until a big decision near the end, which I guess that's spoiling.
Would you do business with my friend here?
Madam, I'll do business with anyone.
Thanks for your help. Goodbye for now.
So we've got to
At your
get an
command, madam.
Atlantean artifact
Don't
to
be a
get the
stranger now.
information.
Interesting character.
Trade, huh? If not your necklace, then what, I wonder?
Now, if we try and talk to him again, can we get the other information, or does it
Mr.
not matter?
Costa?
Why, hello.
Hello yourself, cutie.
I've given you all the help I can unless you have something to trade.
So he won't give you the other
Don't be a
line of
stranger now.
dialogue, which
Interesting character.
doesn't
I
really
don't
matter.
want to hear about it.
So if we try to use the car and leave, it will just swap you back to Indiana Jones
Let's get out of here.
when we transfer to the next area. So now we go to Tikal. Now both the Azores and Tikal are not areas I recognize, so I wouldn't be surprised one bit if these are no longer called the Azores or Tikal. We are now at 26 of 32, and let's see. Walk to the entrance of the jungle. We're going to work our way through a jungle here. And so there's a jungle rodent,
He looks like a jungle rodent.
and then there's a dark path.
It's a path leading deeper into the jungle. It's a path leading deeper into the jungle.
There's multiple paths. So on a old-fashioned monitor, like you probably would have had the 12 to 16 inch monitor. Maybe you got up to maybe 20, 22 inches. You're not going to be looking at anything that's a 4:3 ratio square monitor up in the 30s or 40s or higher, more than likely. And even if you did have a very big monitor, the resolution of this game that it would run at would still be particularly low, so you really wouldn't get a lot of help as far as which way to go here. This is unfortunately one of these puzzles that is just designed to make you wander around until you figure out the trick, which the trick is to kind of follow the jungle rodent, which looks like a capybara or something, and see if you can convince the rodent to go where you want it to go. Which, yeah, kind of do a nasty thing to convince it to go by hitting it with a whip.
That critter's too far away.
I think. Maybe you don't hit it with the whip. Right. This one on this side will always end up putting you there.
That critter's too far away.
I guess what we need to walk around and see which gate goes where. It's, I don't think, random. So yeah. We want him to go through this path. And the reason we want him to go through this path is because you have this rodent hidden behind this tree, where clearly this tree should not be there. And then you have this giant anaconda, which Indiana Jones hates snakes. And then you have a parrot.
It's a snake. I hate snakes.
Hmm. So you do walk over here. Then you do walk over here. And I suppose the tutorialization here is that not always will you have to interact with Sophia to interact with other living creatures. And there will just be puzzles. So you had to step just a little bit closer. Notice how they animate that so it just is slightly like him whipping the air and not actually hitting the animal. Although I guess it doesn't really matter because you then let the anaconda grab it and both of them fall to their deaths, more than likely. And this definitely highlights how violence against humans in the early 90s was much more considered a bad thing in video games than violence against animals, where we have pretty much gone complete 180 from that, and now violence against animals in almost all forms of media is considered way more, and people don't care about if you shoot millions upon millions of enemies in a video game and murder them. That in part ruined the Tomb Raider series, since Lara Croft in the original Tomb Raider series was very often dual gunning down dinosaurs and wolves and things like that.
It looks pretty flexible.
Not really shooting people. And the closest thing they could even get to that was more natural hunting of deer using a bow and arrow in the Tomb Raider reboot to get resources and survive. And even at that, you still end up shooting a lot more humans than animals in the Tomb Raider reboot. So you use the tree to climb up the tree. Why do you climb up the tree? Because it bends over and lets you across.
Wow, some bridge.
Hi, Indy.
And then the comedic response here is there was a path around the other way. So if you just had walked, if they had let you walk to the left of the screen when in the area on the far left of the screen where we first started, you could have avoided all of that.
How did you get over here?
While you were off bushwhacking, I found a path.
What do we do now?
We better find Sternhardt.
You could definitely just ignore a lot of her prompts if you wanted to and just try to go it alone. I could see some people perhaps being slightly irritated that they're being followed by a character, but I don't think this game, it's not anywhere close to like an Ocarina of Time Navi character that's going, hey listen to this tutorial, you have to go through this tutorial before you can go forward. It's none of that. She's just here if you want to talk to her, otherwise she might as well not even be in the room. Now, you are definitely in a weird position. I think this game also did come with a hints guide, at least the version I got, so you couldn't get stuck. But if you didn't have a hints guide, and there's nothing built into the game these days, but you do get the manual on Steam, so that probably would give you some hints. You could potentially have been stuck here, just wondering what to do. There's literally only two things on the screen anyways, so eventually you probably would figure it out. And here you can say probably want a cracker, echo, or tip a canoe.
Polly want a cracker?
Which I don't know what tip a canoe means. So you can talk to this parrot, which I don't think are particularly native. Let's see. Then you have a trinket stand, and you have a temple.
A monument to the genius of the Mayans.
Then you have a kerosene lamp.
Just a minute. That's my shop.
So here we've got another guy.
Can I help you?
And with every new character, it really does feel like they should
Replica
remaster this just to make these characters recognizable and look like humans instead of blurry mushes of pixels.
No thanks, Mr.
Charles Sternhardt, PhD, independent thinker, researcher, and merchant.
Let's see.
What can you tell us about the temple?
We're looking for the lost Plato dialogue right now, not just Atlantis,
Now
but they are
does this look
hinting
like
towards
limited
Atlantis.
Or does it seem much too civilized?
So you could, in woke 2021 times, make a small complaint around the idea that this is suggesting that the Atlanteans, a Western society of their time, were the creators of Mayan temples, and that all Native Americans, North, Central, and South, were always civilized, uncivilized savages. And there's been a whole lot of whitewashing there, frankly. That we will never truly know the extent of the level of civilization that existed and the level of technology that existed in the Americas before the Europeans came and committed mass genocide, killing probably billion or two Native Americans, and then rewriting history. But of course, when this game was made, that's not really the focus or really what they were trying to point out here. And if anything, you could have just put it on this one character. Let's see. Let's just ask about the Plato's Lost dialogue.
Well, what can you tell us about Plato's Lost Dialogue?
I'm the one who translated it, I can tell you that. I'd worry you were here to steal my last copy, but someone called Mr. Smith beat you to it.
So the
Oh, no.
Nazi already stole his copy.
What can you tell us about Mr. Smith?
He showed up last week, a tall man with a German accent and a pistol. He could have taken all my souvenirs, but he only wanted the lost dialogue.
Then you have to wait for the dialogue to actually play.
I'm hoping to find some evidence of Atlantis here.
Evidence is easy. You're surrounded by it. Proof? Now that's hard.
If anything, it is kind of surprising that there aren't more archaeologists in the world that do believe that Atlantis may have influenced other societies. But yeah, there's kind of not a lot of talk of that, and I guess there's just not been a lot of proof. And at the end of the day, I think archaeologists are mostly good scientists, and with a lack of proof to back up extreme claims, it's hard to say that Atlantis existed and it was this highly technologically advanced society. If anything, the true Atlantis, as far as an ancient, highly technologically advanced society, would be Alexandria and the Middle East, China, even, as you move further and further east and further away from how Europeans rewrote history for their own benefit and downplayed the accomplishments of others and upplayed the kind of minimal accomplishments of Europeans and England. Those are the real societies that had major history. And then in 2021 perspective, that same destruction of the true history of the world is now getting propagated very much by very fundamental radical Muslims who are destroying their own cultural statues and their own pyramids and their own tomes that would speak of a history and a culture before Muhammad. And more than likely, this is a cycle that has been played out multiple times throughout the world, where one new religion or group gets in power and destroys the history of others. I wouldn't be surprised if 4,000 or 5,000 years ago we were very, very advanced for our time, but I think there is probably a upper limit to that. We've found ancient batteries, but you're not going to be able to get a piece of glass pure enough to make a magnifier pure enough to make things small enough to be at a microscopic level, unless we literally did have some kind of Atlantean type society that blew up, and it literally would have to blow up. It would have to destroy every shred of evidence for the methods and the ways that you would make something like a computer chip, a transistor, microscopic. We're on the verge of going to quantum level technology. If humans ever had that technology before, there would be some kind of evidence of it. But it is also worth mentioning, and I'm kind of just rambling here, that we did probably lose 1,000 years of progress because of the Dark Ages. And at a certain point in the Dark Ages, it is suspected that we also lost hundreds of years in actual calendar time as people shifted away from one calendar to another. So we don't even really know if the histories in the accounts are as accurate as they should be, because we don't know if one calendar is converting correctly to another calendar. Let's keep on playing though. Sorry for going on a big ramble there.
I pretty much lost hope myself, but old legends and rumors die hard.
Although there is something to be said about a story like this acting as a good starting point for thinking a new concept, a new thought. In the, I would say probably 25 years since this game came out, we really haven't had any other games talk about Atlantis. We haven't really had any other movies talk about Atlantis, except for the Marvel universe with their version of Atlantis. There could have easily been more movies and stories around it. It clearly just nobody was that interested in it, I guess. I don't know. Like, if you told me today that a new game was going to come out and it was going to be set in Atlantis, I'd be like, yay. I think the problem, though, is you have established things like Dracula, where so many people were initially enthralled with the idea of Dracula that there were so many stories about Dracula that it established a foundation of a solid story base, where Atlantis is kind of more of a nebulous thing, and it probably got talked about too much by crazy people in the 90s and 80s, when crazy people were starting to come out of the woodworks, as it were, and be more criticized. Like, had people been talking about Atlantis 300 years ago, people would go, oh, well, that's just an interesting story, or, oh, that guy's a little crazy, but he tells an interesting tale. It was only until we started seeing the Area 51, the aliens abducted me type crazy, Bigfoot type crazy people, and we started to see them get depicted as undesirable by TV and movies more and more, that's when Atlantis would have first had a chance to really spring up and catch people's attention. And there definitely were some generations in the past 100 years of people that just have no imagination at all, so they didn't like any kind of fiction.
What kind of rumors?
Local legend has it that the temple was built by men who are not men.
What are men who are not men?
Who knows? I've heard everything from giant men with snakes for tails to giant snakes with men for heads.
Notice the line of dialogue there was pretty quiet.
You actually believe Atlanteans lived here?
After the city sank, this is where they came, I'm sure.
So he thinks that the Atlanteans came to this area. Another guy thinks the Atlanteans came to Iceland. And the third person thinks Atlantis is the Azores. So you're getting very conflicting theories. And in a funny way, there's not as many red herrings in what we're hearing as you would think. They kind of all wrap it up to make it almost all true. And I would argue maybe that's the problem with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull too. And it probably would have been nicer if they had realized that the Crystal Skull wasn't really anything as crazy as it ended up being.
Can we take a look inside?
How do I know that you aren't a pair of silly tourists? I only show the temple to reputable scholars.
Well, we can prove that because we can show a picture of ourselves in the magazine.
Indiana? Sounds like the name of one of your states, or possibly a cat.
Actually, it was the name of a dog.
Sophia.
So they're establishing that Sophia is going to tell that story.
I'd really like to explore the
every single time she can.
Tell me the name of the lost dialogue of Plato.
Let's see. So this introduces a new puzzle where you aren't supposed to know. Tetrahedron is just a shape. Pleiades, I think, might be a yoga pose or a muscle. The gluteus maximus is definitely a muscle. It's your butt. Or I don't know the title. None of these are right. So you can guess and he'll just call you out as being wrong, or you can be honest. And to move forward, you do want to be honest.
I don't know the title.
Well, at least you're an honest man.
So it really wouldn't.
Why do I keep looking at her?
It wouldn't have been anything for you to pull out that.
Why do I keep looking at her?
To pull this out and show it to him. But our goal was to get the hint that the parrot repeated title. So we can then talk to this parrot and go title question mark.
Title?
Hermocrates, a friend of Socrates.
So We can either walk to the temple and he'll stop you, or we could have gone and tried to take
Begging
a
your pardon, you can't go in
trinket
there. The temple isn't safe.
from the guy, from his trinket stand, which kind of overly
Listen.
highlights how important the lamp is.
About exploring
So you
the
have to
temple.
talk to him a second time.
Tell me the name of the Lost
Which-
Dialogue of Plato.
A lot of players wouldn't immediately get that, frankly. It would be very easy to accidentally think there's nothing you could do and end up wandering around the rest of the 3 locations for several hours. And yeah, that's not really the best way to lengthen a game by potentially setting people on the wrong path. Here we now have the Hermocrates as an answer with 2 bad answers, so you still have 3 out of 4 options to mess up.
The Hermocrates.
That's it.
How would he know? How would anybody
Well,
know
now,
that
perhaps
is the
I
real
was wrong.
question.
You seem to know what you're doing. Walk this way, please.
Like, if he was the guy that translated it, pretty
don't
much
trust
he
this
would be
guy,
the only
Indy.
person that would have known the
I know what you
title.
mean.
Unless everybody
on.
else does know it, and Indiana Jones is
Here we
just
are. See what you
kind
can
of an idiot. Okay. So, you have an animal head statue. You have a thing in the floor that I don't think is anything, although it is oddly darkly shaded. You have an outline in the back with nothing. There is a spiral design and more spiral designs, and this spiral design is different than the spiral designs with an S. And then you have this. So what this point and click adventure game is definitely trying to do is make it so you
Looks like it could use a nose.
are limited in what you have to interact with. Notice that there's really only going to be maybe 10 items. I think eventually you get the up and down arrow to have more items, but it's not really like there's a lot.
Engraved symbols of water and life.
Whereas I would say other point and click adventure games, you end up grabbing a bunch of garbage items, and the way you use the garbage items is often very crazy. Everything you use here is kind of logical in this game.
This one looks different, more deeply etched.
Okay. So I think we need to go get
Can I talk
the
to you,
lamp.
Sophia?
So I think I need to go
What's up?
get Sophia to take keep him occupied.
Could you talk to Sternhardt and keep him occupied?
Okay.
Hmm.
Dr. Sternhardt, I'd like to speak to you.
Notice how they animate her walking away so you can see her butt. Although. So yeah, you keep him busy so you can come and grab this because he
Good thing
stopped you
that pest
before.
Sternhardt's not around.
And then you walk back to the temple. Which the temple is oddly in this like corner where you'd think it would be slightly easier.
Excuse me, won't you? Let's see what your friend is up to.
So when you walk back in, he starts looking at you again and watching
It's
you.
a lamp filled with kerosene.
So one of the
So,
problems,
took my lamp, eh? I hope you know what you're doing.
here, though, particularly in 2021, is people probably don't use kerosene that much. Kerosene in general or kerosene lamps. So knowing that you were supposed to open it and
Better not spill the kerosene.
then you were supposed to use the kerosene to eat away at the spiral design
Look, the kerosene ate away the tarnish.
is frankly
Remarkable.
like, I could see a lot of people in modern days not knowing that that's what could happen or that's what you were supposed to do. I don't think anybody would use kerosene to clean away any kind of tarnish. This is also kind of a great example of terrible archaeology, just using a very generic kerosene to potentially destroy a ancient artifact.
Now I got it.
Marvelous.
So we now have removed the spiral
It's a
design,
stone carving.
which is like a two-headed snake, and then you use the spiral design with the animal head.
It fits perfectly. Now it looks kind of like an elephant.
And there we got the Indiana Jones sound effect. And see, we are at 50 of 56. Notice I haven't had to save or do any like jumping around at all, because there is literally no other way to solve these sections.
Astonishing. Bless my soul. The tomb of an Atlantean king.
I guess in this story this is an Atlantean
Images of land and
tomb.
sea engraved on it. I do believe it's a Wellstone.
So
At last I have the thing.
this is the first thing we've heard
Goodbye,
about.
fellow seekers.
Wait!
Oh no, he got away!
So that was the first we'd even heard of a Weldstone.
It's almost invisible.
See if we can push the secret door.
Won't budge.
See if we can pull the secret door.
Won't budge.
See if we can open the secret door.
It won't budge.
So, yeah. I guess the idea is that the Mayan society may have been
Who knows? Maybe it is the tomb of an Atlantean king.
descendants of of Atlanteans. So here you have a shiny bead,
Looks like a bead of orichalcum.
and we will be finding several of these throughout the game. It definitely feels like you would be
Who knows? Maybe it is the tomb of an
clicking
Atlantean
or picking up his
king. I
crown.
don't think that'll work. Too bad for Sternhardt. He missed the orichalcum bead.
And orichalcum in this game is pretty much your currency. I'm not sure you ever really get any money or anything like that. So now you can click that, but I don't think you can pick up the
It
nose.
won't come out.
So yeah, there'll be times where you have 2 or 3 of these, and you won't just want to use these on Sophia's necklace to use them up. You're going to use them for other reasons in almost every scenario. And I guess we'll hold on to the kerosene lamp until the game decides that we don't need the kerosene lamp. Yeah, and in a funny way, we've gone an hour to do probably what would have been 40 minutes of actual gameplay. I definitely did spend a lot of time just talking. And that's fine, certainly, because that really goes to show that there is just a level of nostalgia here and waxing poetic, certainly, that is centered around playing an old game like this. And for new people who have never played this game before, yeah, you might be able to breeze through it fairly quickly, but you probably wouldn't be able to because you probably wouldn't know immediately what to do. There's a very low chance that I will ever be confused as far as what to do. Like, I heavily suspect that I will be able to just breeze through this game if I don't just sit back and relax and take my time. But there is also certainly an appeal to playing an old game and just relaxing, and it's like watching an old movie you've seen 100 times before Like, sure, you're not going to see anything new, but you're going to see something very familiar. I am very surprised, though, that I had to turn down the music volume. I suspect that some of these volumes probably were tweaked in different launchers, considering how none of these games originally used the SCUM virtual machine. They would have used either the exact same original SCUM engine launchers, or they would have used slightly different slightly different launchers with slightly different settings, and I imagine they didn't change the settings too much. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.